Well, this is an article I didn't expect to find, but apparently Microsoft employees, that is at the development level, apparently also with Xbox, are now questioning the value of diversity hires. Yikes! Going against the meritocracy is likely to lead to a James Damore level of unpersoning. If you remember, James Damore penned a sort of anti-PC, but also scientifically backed letter inside of Google, who promptly fired the man, promptly unpersoned him for having non-generally accepted mainstream media views on diversity hires. Now it looks like people inside of Microsoft are actually fighting back against it. Now, to be clear to my detractors who will willfully misrepresent this video, obviously I don't have a problem with diversity. I don't have a problem with people of color. I don't have a problem with the LGBTQ community. All right, okay? What I have a problem with is forced diversity or quotas, because to have a quota is physically impossible. Once, you have a quota, but you cannot you cannot have a meritocracy if you're going to be hiring based on the color of somebody's skin or what's in their pants. It doesn't work that way. They like to say, well, if we have two kind of similar employees, we're going to take the one that's from Zimbabwe. Well, that is not hiring the best person for the job. If you only interview at such a surface level where two employees are exactly identical to you except for the skin color, you need to ask more questions. You need to do more proficiency exams. Maybe one of them will take a lower salary. There's an absolute plethora of ways to decide between two employees that has nothing to do with their skin color or what's in their pants. However, it looks like some people at Microsoft are getting woke. Now, mark my words, it won't be long until these people are doxxed and promptly removed from the company. I would not be surprised one bit. Some Microsoft employees are openly questioning whether diversity is important in a lengthy discussion in an internal online messaging board meant for communicating with the CEO of the company. Two posts on the board criticizing Microsoft's diversity initiatives as discriminatory hiring, which, by the way, it is, and suggesting that women are less suited for engineering roles, having elicited more than 800 comments, both affirming and criticizing the viewpoints. Multiple Microsoft employees have told Quartz. The posts were written by female, but the posts were written by a female Microsoft programmer. Quartz reached out to her directly for comment and isn't making her name public at this point, pending her response. So she's already doxxed. The question, or the quote goes, does Microsoft have any plans to end the current policy that financially incentivizes discriminatory hiring practices? To be clear, I am referring to the fact that senior leadership is awarded more money if they discriminate against Asians and white men. Read the original post by Microsoft programmer on Yammer, a corporate messaging platform owned by Microsoft. The employee commented consistently throughout the thread, making similar arguments. Quartz reviewed the lengthy sections of an internal discussion provided by Microsoft employees. I have an ever-increasing file of white male Microsoft employees who have faced outright and overt discrimination because they have the misfortune of both being born white and male. This is unacceptable, the programmer wrote in a comment later. The Microsoft employee who spoke to Quartz said they weren't aware of any action by the company in response, despite the comments being reported to Microsoft's Human Resource Department. When contacted by Quartz, Microsoft pointed to the comments by three company officials in the message board threads. A member of the Microsoft employee team's investigations responded to the initial post in January, writing that the company does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. Another Microsoft staff member who leads the team that helps the board of directors determine executive pay went on to say that the diversity-based initiative, our board and executive leadership team believe diverse and inclusive teams are good for business and consistent with our mission to inspire to culture. She wrote, linking compensation to these aspirations is an important demonstration of executive commitment to something we strongly believe in. So essentially, yes, they do plan to continue to discriminate or over-incentivize people based on their skin color, which is, of course, discrimination. Just because, and again, this is like the continued conversation that if you choose to discriminate against white males, it's accepted. It's called diversity or pushing for diversity, but it doesn't change the fact that you're discriminating them. And to be honest with you, I don't ever want to work for a company that doesn't care about the output or the fit for the job and cares more about the color of your skin. It's absurd to me. The internal debate over merits of diversity comes as Microsoft grappling with an uproar over allegations of harassment, and some staff said the company hasn't adequately responded over the years. It's also a powerful glimpse into the internal dissent against efforts by the world's biggest tech company to increase the number of women and people of color on staff in the face of criticism that those groups are underrepresented, especially in leadership ranks. Now, this is I think, a slanted representation of the argument. Nobody has a problem with, I mean, you look at every major tech company out there right now, the CEO's female and from somewhere that isn't the United States originally, it seems like, which is fine. I don't care. You know who I want running my companies? The best person for the job. That happens to be a woman from wherever. I don't care. Good. If it happens to be a white male, also fine. It's all about optics. The way they're wording this is that people have a problem with women in leadership roles, which is not the case this woman or myself, for example, have ever made. There's absolute, and I don't agree with this quote, by the way, that says many women are simply aren't cut out for the corporate rat race, so to speak, and that's not because of the patriarchy. Well, I guess I would agree with that. But you could also say the exact same thing about men. There are many men who are not cut out, many men who enjoy a lot of soy-based products that are not cut out for the 80-hour work weeks, that aren't cut out for the dog-eat-dog environment that you get inside a lot of these corporate places. Now, that goes on to talk about the Microsoft author Echo's former Google employee, James Damore, who in 2017 wrote a memo that went internally viral at Google, leaning on pseudoscience to argue that women are cut out for the tech industry. Damore was fired for breaching the company's code of conduct amid enormous public and internal controversy, and Google CEO Sundar Pichai, sounds like a white male to me, wrote in a memo that the firing was due to advancing harmful gender stereotypes in our workplace. So you have a place where you invite people to share their opinions, but they must be the right opinions. It's James Damore all over again, except this time it's at Microsoft. And what really is going to be troubling for Microsoft to deal with is the fact that a woman wrote it. Below is a section of comments from a Microsoft employee with the capitalization for emphasis in the original comments made by the employee. Because women used to actively be prohibited from full-time employment many decades ago, there is now the misguided belief that women should work. And if women aren't working, there's something wrong. Many women simply aren't cut out for the corporate rat race. And I would say many people in general, so to speak. And that's not because of the patriarchy. It's because men and women aren't identical, and women are more inclined to gain fulfillment elsewhere. We still lack any empirical evidence that the demographic distribution in tech is rationally and logically detrimental to the success of the business and the industry. We have a plethora of data available that demonstrates women are less likely to be interested in engineering at all than men. And it's not because of any ism or phobia or unconscious bias. It's because men and women think differently from each other, and the specific type of thought process and problem solving required for engineering of all kinds are simply less prevalent among women. This sounds like a lot of wrongthink. This is an established fact. However, the established facts make people uncomfortable because it suggests that the gender distribution in engineering might not actually be a problem. and thus women can no longer bleat about being victims of isms in the workplace, and these facts are ignored in favor of meaningless platitudes that our senior leadership team continues to shove down our throats. Example, we're not doing enough, and we clearly have a long way to go. We must immediately cease the practice of attaching financial incentives and performance metrics to diversity hiring. As long as we give more money and higher annual reviews explicitly for not hiring/promoting white men and Asians, this will continue to be a serious problem at this company. One of the posts was written on January 10th, has more than 625 comments, and the others were written on April 4th, have more than 175 comments, according to Microsoft employees who wish to remain anonymous. But the latest Microsoft posts are especially fraught, given Microsoft has recently pledged greater commitment to diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion is something that should happen naturally. You can't force it. It's racism. I mean, I don't know how else to describe this. Way back in the cheap seats, if you're hiring based on skin color, that's racist. It's pretty simple. All right. The latest posts aren't only the only examples of online opposition to concerns at diversity at Microsoft. And again, it isn't a concern with diversity. It is a concern with forced diversity or exclusion of people. And September 18th, another female employee who had just graduated university and joined Microsoft expressed concern on Yarn about a lack of gender diversity in her department. She posted that, as a woman in software development, it really pains me to see the skewed gender ratio around me. I believe Azure compute is less than 20% women. The post racked up nearly 1,000 comments, with many male programmers jumping in, taking the opposing view. As in the two posts from January and April, not all comments were anti-diversity. Some Microsoft employees argued back against their colleagues. How proof data. If it's skewed, let's fix that. But just saying Microsoft has less females than males is not a valid point, one male employee responded in a separate employee who defended the original poster. I 100% agree with that. They go on to say, though, that HR isn't trying to enforce the inclusion culture that they're talking about. One Microsoft employee who read the latest post by the program manager and response to them told Quartz, HR, Satya, all the leadership are sending out emails that they want to have inclusive culture, but they're not willing to take any action other than to talk about it, they said. They allow people to post these damaging stereotypical things about women and minorities, and they do nothing about it. Well, it sounds like you're a ideologue, a far left crazy person. What they're saying is, let me translate that. They allowed somebody to post something that I disagree with, and I don't think that they should be allowed to post things that I disagree with. This type of attitude is absolutely pathetic. It's the type of attitude that leads to censorious environments. It's the type of attitude that leads to work environments not having the best people for the job. How hard is it to just hire the best person for the job? I'm sorry if let's say we look at, just as an example, maybe that you have 100 employees and within your reasonable hiring range, Asian folks are the best suited for that job because of what they did in elementary, middle school, and high school, and because of the choices that their family made. These candidates just are better prepared for your job and a better fit. Okay, fine. I don't have a problem with that. I don't see anybody going and saying, man, all these programmers from India is a real problem. Look, these people work hard. They learn how to be developers because they know that there's a market niche for that, and they get good and they've earned that job. I don't understand the pushback against meritocracy. Maybe my example isn't perfect, but the point I'm trying to make is the best person for the job is who should have that job. And the fact that you would openly discriminate against any race or gender is disgusting. Hope you enjoyed this video, though. We'll talk to you again real soon.